I would guess that the recreational lifter, now listen to this closely, the percentage of use has gone from about 5% to around 50% conservatively in the gym. All right, so let's get right into this. If you're natural, you're essentially screwed.
Exactly.
Building impressive muscle is not something in your future.
Jeez.
At least that's what some would say. Because we made a video not long ago where we talked about building muscle over 40 naturally. Is it really essentially something you could do or not do?
Yeah, well, there was 7,500 comments on that video, and I read almost every single one of them, and it fell into two main camps. Mm-hmm. There were the guys that said, that's bullshit, you can absolutely build muscle over 40.
Because they did it.
Yeah, they got the track record to prove it.
Right.
And then you had the other camp, which was saying, sure, you can build muscle over 40 naturally, but you can't build impressive muscle over 40.
Right, so impressive being this big qualifier. So first of all, what is impressive muscle to you?
Is it impressive to yourself?
Right. Are you comparing you to you? Are you comparing yourself to someone else? And I think that we live in a day and age right now where, unfortunately, you're likely comparing yourself to somebody else. So what I want to do is I want to revisit this topic and kind of hammer home something incredibly important, if you allow me to. And it starts by looking back, if you'd let me do that, Jesse, a few years.
Back in time?
A few years. When I was just in high school, starting out, where a lot of guys are starting at 16, 17 years old to start training. I went to a gym called USA Gym in Milford, Connecticut, for anybody from locally that understands where that is. And when I first walked in the door there was essentially, it was intimidating for sure. I was a really small, kind of tiny kid. There were two main people there, okay? There were the bodybuilders who were competing. These guys all competed, not like professionally, but locally. But bodybuilders, and then there was the recreational lifter. Okay, now, if you were lucky enough to train in a gym where there might actually be athletes, they might be training in the gym too, or if there were even actors or so that were in that area, they might be training at that gym. And I would say that the pro bodybuilders or the bodybuilders in that gym were largely using steroids. They were very big, knowing what I know now, they were very big, developed people that couldn't really achieve those things naturally. Right. Some of the athletes maybe, some of the actors maybe, because that I think is kind of part of that world. We'll talk about that in one quick second. The recreational lifting use of steroids, when I first started training, and this is going to put me back in like 1991 or so.
So before I was born.
Oh, man, making me feel old. But around 1991, I would say it was about 5%.
Jeez.
You were just there to lift. Like, you wanted to get bigger, but you weren't obsessed with like the level of gains that the bodybuilders had because you identified that they were probably using steroids and you weren't really interested, okay? Now, fast forward to today. We still got actors, we still got athletes, we still got pro bodybuilders or guys competing locally. And I think that the use amongst those groups is probably not very much changed at all. Okay? But then we've got this other group that's been introduced and we call them, like, we have our influencers. And there's a lot of people trying to become an influencer through social media because it's becoming an avenue for people to earn a living. Unfortunately, there's a large segment of influencers that I think we all could agree are like shitfluencers.
I love that term, shitfluencer.
Right? Not very good at their job, right? And probably shouldn't be making content. And a lot of those guys are using steroids, testosterone, whatever it might be to enhance themselves, okay? Now, what's happened to the recreational lifter? The recreational lifter still goes. I would guess that the recreational lifter, now listen to this closely, the percentage of use has gone from about 5% to around 50% conservatively in the gym. Why is that? Because it's being fed from the top down and the bottom up, meaning from the guys that are older than them recreationally that are feeding the top down and almost normalizing it, and from the guys beneath them or the young guys who are kind of rushing to go right to steroid use or the use of PEDs in some form to assist them to get a much faster start in terms of their lifting career. Yeah. It's being fed from both ends. And a lot of it has to do with that shitfluencer influence that's actually causing this to become much more common. And I have a big problem with that. Regarding the actors and athletes, I've had an opportunity to work with professional athletes in professional sports directly. I was in Major League Baseball. In 2006, my first season, I was thrown right into the mix right after the kind of PD era in baseball was kind of blown the lid off.
Yeah, I
right?
remember that.
So they were basically, guys like Barry Bonds and Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. That was all happening right before I went there. Well, there are already procedures in place to try to limit that, including more frequent drug testing, harsher penalties, and then even the institution of NSF requirement for supplement use. So you couldn't take a supplement in MLB, or you shouldn't take a supplement in MLB, if it wasn't an approved, NSF-approved supplement. And that was the only arrangement they had at the time. They've actually expanded that to more certification divisions at this point. But that was limiting the use, but it wasn't like it wasn't happening, okay? It was still happening then, but it was up to the athlete to decide whether or not that was something that they wanted to risk. Because no matter what you do in life, guys, things that have a positive are going to have a negative as well.
Yeah.
And the negative for someone that got caught using steroids in professional sports was A, maybe some public embarrassment, B, you'd be letting your team down when you were suspended for 80 games, and you have zero production when that happens, right? So you can't contribute to your team's wins. So there's a risk, and there's also the risk of increased injury.
Yeah.
And I can tell you as a physical therapist, the guys that might have been suspected of still using despite the heightened regulations were oftentimes the guys that were hurt the most too. All right, so that was that. As far as actors who we've had a chance to work with, these guys are literally being paid to basically to do make-believe things, right? To play a role or add 40 pounds for this role or lose a lot of weight for this role. And it's very hard for me to understand what their motivation might be other than getting a role or not getting a role. And I don't know. I have a different perspective on where we're supposed to sit in terms of the judgment of those guys and whether or not they should disclose or not disclose. I mean, what they're doing.
Right.
I think if you suspect they're doing something, then fine. But it sort of leads to this other thing, and that is we have become so attuned to want to have to know what that individual is doing to where it is guiding all of our training effort.
And our decisions.
Decisions on indulging in the use of steroids, and a lot of that is being fed by that shitfluencer group that's creating this ideal that a lot of the young kids can't live up to, or even the older guys who aren't living up to it and are starting to feel like maybe I should be doing this too.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the groundwork. Now, stick with me here because I'm sure all of you guys who are watching are going to fall into this one big major category, and please identify yourself of who you are and what your journey has been like in the comments, because it was incredibly helpful for Jesse as he was going down here. It started this whole need for this other video. Of the recreational lifter group, I would say that we have a group of older guys, right? And the older guys, let's say the veterans who've been training for a long time and are starting to see their gains slip away a little bit, considering maybe, should I do something to bring that back? The next group of older guys who are not only trying to restore what they're losing, but they're using the normalization of therapeutic intervention or hormonal intervention as a way to augment that way above and beyond that, and use the justification of, I'm just on TRT as the way for doing that.
My doctor prescribed it, so it's okay.
Right. My doctor also prescribed dick pills because I told him I had ED, right? That's the comment. Not my doctor, by the way. I was just making that up. That's not true. But I'm saying people go in there and say, doc, I can't get an erection, and here you go, here's some pills, right? So it's the abuse of that. Then there is the old guy who is basically starting old. Where there are some people who are actually just getting started at 40, and they have an interesting argument where they say, Jeff, I see what you've done. You've put in the work over the course of many years. You said you started training at 15 years old. You're 50 years old now, or 48 years old. I'm not going to sell myself short. But you're getting older. I don't have the time, I don't think, to invest 35 years or 25 years into training starting at 40. I'd rather get some of the benefits while I'm younger to looking better and moving better and everything else. We'll get back to him too, but see if you can identify with any of those three guys. Then we've got the younger guys. And you've got the younger instant gratification group, which you've seen firsthand in the gym.
At the gyms that I go to, it's rampant. Everyone, their mother, I shouldn't say everyone their mother, but every young kid.
Could be their mother too.
It could be. Everyone between the ages of 16 and 30, as we've said before, they're looking at each other and saying, this guy's on something because he's bigger than I am. I have to do something to compete with that. I have to look as good as he does. And I even have a kid that works out with me. He's 19, And anytime he sees someone new in the gym that's bigger than him or stronger than him, he pulls me aside and he says, Jesse, do you think he's on something? What is he taking? Do you think he's on steroids?
Right.
Do you think he's natural? And I have to say, I don't know, but what does it matter to you? Why do you care so much whether he's natural or not? How does it affect you and your training?
Well, I think this is where things have gone off the rails because people are judging themselves based off of others' accomplishments.
Yeah.
There's no more thing about measuring yourself against yourself. It's measuring yourself against everybody else. And that is, unfortunately, what has been created because of our rampant social influence that's caused what the ideal has. The ideal has shifted. Now, you've got the young guy who's also decided to not indulge and do anything like that because he sees the repercussions potentially, but he's frustrated.
Yeah.
And he's wondering, what can I do? Mm-hmm. And then that guy is making up a big portion of the gym, and that might be you as well. Yeah. So where do you fall in those 5 groups of people? Are you one of those 3 older group guys, or are you sort of in that younger group? Here's what I have to say. When you start at the bottom, I am so concerned about what is happening from the bottom up. And it's an incredibly disturbing trend when you decide you're going to hit the gym for the first time at 15 or 16 years old. And listen here closely because this is what's happening. I'm going to start going to the gym, Jesse. I got to get what? I need some straps maybe, right?
I need a belt.
I need a belt. I might need a gym bag. And I got to pick which PED I'm going to use. Like, they're picking it the same way that if you decided you were going to play golf, that you're going to go pick out your driver, your putter, your sand wedge, your head covers, right? That's
which tees you're going to use.
Which tees you're going to use. And, throw in the PEDs.
Yeah.
This is what's happening. And I'm making a joke of it, but it's anything but funny. And what's happening is it's leading to this rampant growth and normalization of steroids or TRT, because, guys are starting testosterone at young ages. It's led to this normalization without the concern for the lifetime repercussions of what that's doing. Guys, there's never going to be anything that's delivered to you without any other potential downside. Yeah. It's not going to be just rainbows and unicorns. You're going to have something that potentially is the trade-off for that, and you're not thinking about that. And what's really appalling is the rush to that without even first trying a year or 2 of training. Jesse has made his improvements over the course of 4 to 5 years of training, and a lot of the things, including his strength gains, are things that most people won't even achieve in an entire lifetime of training. But he certainly wasn't going to know what he was capable of if he never gave himself the chance. Yeah. And by giving yourself the chance, you've given yourself the encouragement to know you're capable of really great things if you put the effort in. And that is the lifetime lesson. And this is where I want the guys to speak up who have done this. The lifetime lesson that the natural lifters have learned and carried with them and probably applied to all aspects of their life. Mm-hmm. I can tell you that from having accomplishments by making something of my own body, starting with basically nothing, and learning how to build and sculpt a physique through hard work and proper exercise selection and learning from your mistakes and everything else, gives you the sense of ownership of effort. So that when you go to apply it in your work setting, when you go to apply it in your family life, when you go to apply it in any venture that you partake in, you're confident that you can do something you set out to do.
Yeah. You're able to put in that hard work because you recognize that you've done the hard work to get to where you are now.
Right, and you're cutting that out by looking for the shortcut, and you're exposing yourself to a potential lifetime of risks that never needed to be there. And I'm sorry if I come down on that shitfluencer group, but you are not caring for your audience by simply showing off the physique without trying to educate on smarter training, without trying to educate on injury prevention, without trying to educate on better ways to do it, or telling people that you've got this physique through the use of steroids, and in the process there probably could, I don't want to say discredit everything you just said, but it would probably temper how valuable your information is if you're simply using a shortcut to get where you got to.
It could also be tempering the expectations of your following to see.
Well, because of the kid saying, "Well, I'm supposed to load. What is he using?" That's the whole thing about the Natty or Not videos. Yeah. They're using them to say, "Is that possible for me?" Well, it doesn't necessarily relate to you. It's that individual and their achievements. It shouldn't dissuade you from doing anything in the gym because you still have a large capacity. Anybody that started out not lifting, I didn't have biceps like this when I started. I can promise you that. As you put the effort in, things will develop, and no matter who you are, the development will likely be at a place where it could be impressive to you, to your future girlfriend, to your family, to your friends. Like, there's a lot to impress, but most of all, the person you should be impressing upon is yourself.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing right there, is everything you should do should be a focus on you, not for anyone else.
Now, last thing I want to talk about is those older guys, because I want to make sure I talked a lot about the younger guys here, but the older guys, the guy who I said started out at 40, who never lifted but sees the importance of doing it now and wants to sort of, shorten that learning curve so he can experience some of the gains, while he's younger. Look, I understand the rationale behind that thought. Like, if you said, Jeff, it's taken you 25, 35 years to get to this point, if I start at 40, I'm not going to be seeing your level of development until I'm 75. Well, that doesn't even happen because obviously it becomes more difficult to develop muscle as you get older simply because of the aging process. But remember, along with that could come other risks and downsides. So while you're just focusing on the benefit of a faster, better looking physique, what if along the way you've also developed more quickly joint aches, pains, discomfort, to the point where you're not even training and having fun? To what degree is that taking away from any of the aesthetic gains that you've just achieved by speeding up that curve?
Yeah.
The guy who's using TRT as an excuse to do more, who are you kidding? What are you doing? Like, what is your long-term goal? You're only kidding yourself. And what I'm urging you to do is consider, again, those other potential side effects that come with it. People have asked me point blank, Jeff, would you want to do this? Would you consider doing this? I think as any normal male would probably say, if they could see what an ideal physique is, looking at social media, right? I'm living in a world of social media, and say, would you prefer to look like this guy? Would you prefer your legs were bigger like this guy? Would you prefer you had a bigger chest? Probably the answer is yes on every single account.
Yep.
But I think of my two boys, 7 years old, and I think, could you imagine if in the pursuit of an extra inch or two on my legs, when I think I'm already sitting in an age bracket where I'm at a level of development that's very satisfying for me.
Impressive,
impressive at this age. If I ever were to, in pursuit of that small little bit extra, put my health at risk and jeopardize my boys' future, who they very much need a father in this case. My boys are definitely in need of having all the hands on deck that we can have. That would be devastating.
Yeah, that'd be the end of it.
Devastating. And it's not something I'm willing to do. And I just ask the people who are using it and abusing it for the extra aesthetic benefits to consider what those possible risks are, even if those risks may not be as real as maybe we once were told. I still think there's risk involved. And for the person who's using healthy replacement levels of testosterone, I've never come down on that and said that that's cheating or that that's something that you're supposed to not do. I still have my reservations on the safety of that. And for me, it's just not something that I would indulge in for the reasons I just told you. But I do think that the people who have gone down that road, medically pursued a cure or a treatment for diagnosed hypogonadal symptoms, then if this is what you decide that you want to do, and it makes you feel better or restores your ability to feel better, then I say, then go for it. But I will caution you, they're finding out more and more these days that the potential impact of testosterone on things like ED, on things like sleep quality, are not maybe what they once were thought to be. But the idea is, impressive is in the eye of the beholder. And I will tell you, anyone that puts in the effort, watches our channel, puts in smart training and hard effort with it, is going to get an impressive result. Every single time. You will be impressed by your own effort if you determine to stay on track, withstand the temptations of what might be all around you right now, to stay focused on what you can achieve.
Can I add something?
Sure.
I will say that if anyone ever tells you that what you look like is not impressive, or the work that you've done is not impressive, or the hard work that you've
as you've been told a million times,
I've been told a million
comments.
times, it doesn't matter. Their opinion doesn't matter, and it should not influence the way that you train or the decisions that you make on what you put in your body. That should never influence you. You should have nothing but influence of your own self and your own life, because the second that you let someone else dictate whether you have an impressive physique or not, you've lost control of yourself.
True. I mean, and I think that's where we are right now. That's where we are right now. So hopefully you've identified who you are, and I want you to chime in and sound off, because your comments don't just get read by Jesse and myself. They get read by all the other people who are commenting, and if there's any influence that could be had, hopefully your influence, in a good way, can have an impact on the other people that are reading it, and they may push off the use of PEDs or anything else for this time being because they want to give it a chance.
Yeah.
And that would make me very, very happy, and that would fulfill the goal of this video. All right, guys, leave your comments below. Also, if you haven't done so, make sure you click subscribe, turn on notifications so you never miss a video from us when we put one out. All right, guys, see you soon.